Good evening. I'm going to call the Select Board meeting for Monday, October 7th, 2024, to order. And as required by open meeting law, you're hereby informed that the town will be video and audio taping as well as live broadcasting this public meeting. In addition, anyone in the audience who plans to video or audio tape this meeting must notify the chair prior to the start of the meeting. I'll be repeating that. I shouldn't have read that right now. We're going to go into executive session, and we will not return any earlier than 6 p.m. Can I get a motion?
You may, Madam Chair, and good evening. I move the Select Board enter into executive session for A, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss with respect to collective bargaining for all town unions, and the Chair has determined that open session would have a detrimental effect on the town's bargaining position, Harwich Employee Association, as well as item B, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant in aid requirements. The open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 38, 22F and G, to review, approve, and/or discuss the possible release of executive session meeting minutes dated August 5th, 2024, August 19th, 2024, August 23rd, 2024, and September 9th, 2024.
Second.
And seconded. All in favor? Pete?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Good evening. I'm calling the Select Board meeting for Monday, October 7th, 2024, back to order. We were in executive session earlier this evening, and we took no action on item A and B. I would remind you that as required by open meeting law, you are hereby informed that the town will be video and audio taping as well as live broadcasting this public meeting. In addition, anyone in the audience who plans to video or audio tape this meeting must notify the chair prior to the start of the meeting. Hearing nobody, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comments and announcements. Jeff, did you have something?
I do, Madam Chair. Thank you, and thank you all for being here. I want to announce our next Select Board office hours with hopefully Select Board Member McCaskill and myself. Will be held Wednesday, October 16th. That's next Wednesday, October 16th, at the Community Center from 5:15 to 7 p.m. And I want to thank Carol and Carrie for making that happen for us.
Thank you, Jeff. Anybody for public comments and announcements?
Good evening, Ashley Symington, Director of Youth and Family Services. I hope you all have a good start to your week. I wanted to give you some updates on programming that is going to be going on this month, as well as things that are going to be starting and running through November. I don't know if you have seen copies of this, but we have released a calendar that has all of the programs and dates on the front, program descriptions on the back. So these are available both online and in hard copies. On Thursday this week, we have a new support group that has started, grandparenting support group, that's going to meet about the second Thursday of every month over next door at Albro House. There are 2 times that grandparents can choose from, a 10 to 11 in the morning and a 6 to 7 p.m. at night. This is for grandparents raising grandkids to have an opportunity for peer support, as well as learning about different resources and supports that are available to them within the community and within the state. Next Thursday, October 16th, will be the next workshop in the Understanding Mental Health series that will run once a month from now until the end of the school year. This month's topic is understanding school anxiety and avoidance, which is kind of a big issue with our younger folks. We're going to be talking about what school anxiety is, how to avoid avoidance, and some other strategies that can kind of help folks and families be able to manage that. That's going to be taking place from 6 to 7 p.m. over at the Community Center on October 17th. No registration required. This is open to everyone, and people just need to come on over. no cost to participate or anything like that. On October 24th, which is the following Thursday after that, this month's version of Raise 'em Up, which is helping to raise children and teens in the community. This replaced last year's parent workshop series, so this will also be continuing once a month from now until the end of the school year. This month, we're going to be talking about building, maintaining, and repairing connections with children and teens. Excuse me. That's going to be Thursday, October 24th, from 6 to 7 p.m. over at the 204. And again, no cost, no registration required. People can just come on over. And then our groups for this year are kicking off this month, so we're really excited. We've got a fall run of Girl Power that's going to start on Thursday. This is for our third grade girls from Harwich Elementary School in partnership with the Council on Aging. And we are very excited that in addition to our COA volunteer mentors, we're also going to have several of our female firefighters join us as much as they can throughout the experience. So to make it truly intergenerational and really empower these girls to feel confident in themselves and what they have the possibilities to do. So we're starting this Thursday. We're going to skip next Thursday because of the half day that the school has, and then we'll meet through November 21st. There are still a couple of spaces available if there are any third graders who'd like to register for that. Beginning on Wednesday, October 16th, running through November 20th, we have creative collaboration that is going to be over at the 204 on Wednesdays. This one's for high school students. They have the opportunity to choose from 3 different artist workshops to work with. David Cravenia will be doing mixed media self-portraits. John Bonani will be running a poetry workshop, and Raja Sinjab is going to be running an art therapy component called Photo Voice that gives participants the opportunity to kind of take pictures of their everyday lives and then bring that into a conversation and start developing some solutions based on themes that they're seeing. It's a really cool program, so we're really excited to incorporate her into this. No cost for this one, thanks in part to some grants from a couple of very generous organizations. Harwich Cultural Council and the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod have supported some of the costs to pay the artist fees as well as supply costs for this, so we're really excited to offer it free of charge. And then Managing ADHD is a group for middle school students over at Monomoy Middle School. This is going to be an after-school program meeting on Tuesdays beginning on October 22nd. Students can just stay after school and either take the late bus home or parents can pick them up around 4:30. We're going to be working on executive functioning skills and other strategies to identify the strengths that they have and build some skills and tools to be able to manage the elements of ADHD that might get in their way of doing the things that they need and want to do. Building confidence through art is also for middle school students. This art therapy program is to support students building self-confidence and self-awareness. It's going to be taking place over at the 204 on Wednesdays beginning on October 23rd, running through November 20th. No cost again, registration required, and there are still available openings in all of these. That's what we've got going for this month.
That's a lot. That's
Yes.
wonderful.
Quite a few. All of the information is on the Youth and Family Services webpage, so there is, people can find it there. You're also welcome to reach out to me directly if people have questions or if they want to register for programs.
And is the info also being shared directly, say, with the third grade classes?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
great.
All of the information has gone to all of the schools. It's been in all of their school newsletters.
Great.
And for the Girl Power one specifically, we've got some really wonderful third grade teachers, and the school counselor who handles third grade is really stellar as well. So got a good team going
Awesome,
for that.
that's
Yeah.
great. Thank you, and thank you for the
Absolutely,
update. Thanks for all the hard work. Anybody else for public comment announcement?
Good evening, Emily Mitchell, Town Clerk. Just wanted to share with you information about 2 upcoming election-related events. The first is called Trust the Process. It is an event all about election administration and all the various processes that go into running an election. So things like voting methods, voter list maintenance, result certification, election equipment, kind of that nitty-gritty that goes into the behind-the-scenes piece that a lot of the voters, luckily, mercifully, don't have to touch, but that are very important and that folks have a lot of questions about. So it's an information session and Q&A. It's this Thursday, October 10th, 5 to 7 p.m. at the Harwich Community Center. We'll be in the multipurpose room. And then next week, we have an accessible voting information session. So there are resources for voters with disabilities to vote independently, both in person and as a vote by mail alternative. So we're going to demonstrate both of those options and also give folks the chance to try them out. So we'll have demonstration equipment kind of loaded and ready to go for folks to try them out so they feel more comfortable, either on election day or trying something new. Very excited that the Council on Aging is offering transportation on their accessible van to that information session. That one's next Tuesday, October 15th, 1:30 to 3:30 p.m., also at the Harwich Community Center. So we hope to see folks there.
Great, thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Jamie Goodwin, Harwich Channel Station Manager. I'm here to remind everyone that all of those events that Emily just said and that Ashley just advertised, we do community updates every Wednesday at the community center with my volunteer Dinah Lane. So if you missed any of that or you want more information on those events, you can watch that on our YouTube page. Additionally, Carolyn Carey came on and discussed all of her events at the community center for the entire month of October, as well as the program specialist from the COA. You can watch all of those on Roku TV, Apple TV, our YouTube page. On Roku and Apple TV, it's under Community Updates, and you can watch all the community updates that we do every single month, every single week. The Garden Club came in and gave a really excellent update on all the tonnage of food scraps that they've collected. So they're continuing to advertise that program. So beyond public meetings, we are still trying to do some fun informational community stuff with departments and nonprofits in town. And to watch that, they're run after our public meetings. So if you don't feel like sitting through a Board of Selectmen meeting, you can just go straight to our YouTube page, Roku, or Apple TV. But we are continuing to update the public on what's going on around town. But I would love more YouTube subscribers because it goes right to your inbox every time we post a video. And we're averaging almost 400 videos a year being posted to YouTube. And that's community updates, public meetings. Additionally, this isn't my departmental update, but the election on November 5th is coming up. We did do a full walkthrough of what the election setup looks like in the gym. So if anybody is having any sort of election anxieties, they're a first-time voter or a first-time voter in Harwich, you can watch a video of where the building is, what entrance you go to, what that room looks like, what it's set up on election day. So we're trying to just make sure everyone has all the information, and that's in a YouTube playlist called 2024 Election Updates, as well as all the programs that Emily has done this year. I have an update about the Harwich HD station. I'm meeting with an engineer from Comcast in the next few weeks to discuss what that upgrade is going to look like. Dennis is also getting the upgrade, and Yarmouth is getting it, so it's a very large infrastructure upgrade through Comcast, so I'll be updating the board as that process unfolds. So,
Great,
thank you.
thank you, Jamie. Anybody else for public comment and announcement?
Hi, Teresa Johnson, North Harwich. Last week, Pine Oaks Village, I'm going to talk about Pine Oaks Village. Last week, Pine Oaks Village said the environmental and traffic issues can be resolved, but how can anything be resolved when it is my understanding that Pine Oaks Village has not yet submitted environmental or wildlife studies, and their traffic study said that there were no traffic issues. Therefore, Pine Oaks Village is admitting that there is environmental and traffic issues, but that they want the town of Harwich to fix these problems. Last week's Pine Oak Village had said change is coming to town, as if their development is definitely moving forward with or without the town of Harwich input. I received some updated figures for traffic counts from the Cape Cod Commission. July of 2024, the traffic count for Route 124 and Queen Anne Road was 25,101 cars per day, which is just amazing that there's that many cars that go through that intersection. 2019, Main Street, Route 39, and which was east of Route 124, was 10,135 per day. 2020, Main Street west of Forest Street was 4,647 cars per day. 2021, Depot Street north of Main Street was 5,983 cars per day. 2022, Queen Anne Road west of 124 was 7,994 cars per day. And 2023, Route 124 north of Main Street was 5,779 cars per day. Cape Cod Commission also reported 5 traffic-related deaths in North Harwich, 3 reported on Route 6 in 2014, 19, and 21, and 2 deaths reported at the intersection of Depot Street and Old Chatham Road in 2018 and 2021. And personally, I know of another death in front of the Harwich landfill in 2012. These numbers are astonishing and will only get worse if this development were to add potentially additional 1,000 cars to the treacherous roads in North Harwich. I am also concerned with the proposed Phase 1 of this development, where these buildings will be using Title V septic systems with no idea of how long it will take to get their septic treatment facility operational. Therefore, Phase 1 buildings and additional buildings being built will increase the nitrogen levels in the vernal pools and actually, the vernal pool that's definitely there, but there's potential for 2 additional vernal pools, and the Herring River, which in large volumes until their septic treatment is operational. How long will the Harwich residents be given preference for potential availabilities? Is it only on the first round of people living there, or is it indefinite? As stated last week, creating an emergency to solve another one is something we should look at. This proposed development is too large for the low-density area of North Harwich with treacherous road conditions and environmental concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment and announcement?
Sherry Stockdale, 286 Main Street, North Harwich. I don't think anyone would deny that we have a housing crisis on Cape Cod and in Harwich, but it's possible to be pro-affordable housing and against this massive proposed Pine Oaks 4 housing project. A large reason for the housing problem on Cape Cod is the largely unregulated short-term rental market. And while North Harwich is hardly the hub of short-term rentals, we are being asked to bear the brunt of the solution for the housing crisis with the proposed Pine Oaks 4 in conjunction with 2 other different housing developments in the area. At the September 30th Select Board meeting, Paul Doan said that the environmental and traffic issues can be resolved, while giving no examples of how. But he did say that the town has a way of being able to react to demands, whether it be infrastructure or environment. It's a very resilient organization. So that answers the question about who Pine Oaks thinks should be responsible for infrastructure improvement. In addition, Mr. Doan tried to equate the community's concerns about Pine Oaks Village 4 with the building of Pine Oaks Village 1 in 1975, when the town's population was around 6,000 or 7,000 people. We keep hearing how the Pine Oaks Village people are our neighbors and friends, and that may well be. Last Monday, we certainly heard from many people whose only concern is the well-being of others. But whatever the motivation, it doesn't change the fact that Pine Oaks Village 4 would be enormous, with 10 buildings exceeding the height code, an asphalt parking lot almost equal to that of Marconi Beach and Wellfleet, in a dangerous industrial area lacking infrastructure and near the Herring River. This enormous project would cause major habitat destruction. It would add an unacceptable number of cars to treacherous and overused intersections. So we're not talking about a little more traffic, as one pro-Pine Oaks Village 4 speaker stated last Monday. It's easy to tell others what they should be willing to put up with when you yourself will not have to. Pine Oaks will be asking for millions of dollars from the CPC during the 5 phases of this project. This does not seem to fit the CPC's stated mission to preserve and improve a community's character and quality of life. Pine Oaks Village 4 would not preserve this community, but instead would change this community greatly, while also putting the Herring River in danger of excess nitrogen loading, especially in the first proposed phase of the project before the septic treatment plant is built. The CPC funds should instead be used for improvements to make the area safe for walking, bicycling, and driving, and to protect the Herring River. It's important to remember that these would all be rental units with no option to own, no chance to build equity. Pine Oaks has stated that they would give 70% local preference for individuals and families who live, work, or attend school in Harwich, but this is only in the first round of tenant applications. After that, they are under no obligation to house Harwich residents. And this is after coming to the town for millions in affordable housing and CPC funds, receiving a 50% break on town taxes, and leaving the town with the bill for any infrastructure improvements. Finally, I will add that before I found out about the size of this project, I was for it. I still am, but not at this size. By filing for a 40B with the state, the Pine Oaks Village Group is hoping to override our rights and protections as Harwich residents. That doesn't feel very neighborly or friendly. Opposition to this project is directly related to its size and the effects that that size will have on North Harwich. Last Monday, in response to our opposition, One speaker said, "These are not migrants. They are not people who don't look like you," insinuating that anti-immigrant sentiment or racism is at the heart of the North Harwich community's pushback on this project. I speak for myself and many others when I say that the size of this project is the only issue.
Thank you. And I would just remind you that, to continue to monitor the process, because saying these things at public comment is good for your purposes of getting your word out, but at the same token, as the process moves through the zoning board of appeals and all that, you'll make sure you'll attend to speak your mind there, just reminding you of the process. Thank you. Consent agenda? Oh, sorry.
One more announcement, if I could.
Sure.
We had our community engagement forum on the wastewater Phase 3 construction project last week. It was very well attended, great presentation by GHD, and I think a lot of great questions and give and take from the audience. So I'm now announcing the wastewater Phase 3A planning community engagement forum, asking folks to join us for information about the planning for Phase 3A, which is in and around the area of Great Sand Lakes and Harwich. Representatives from the town of Harwich and GHD Incorporated, our engineers, will be there. This community engagement forum is scheduled for Tuesday, October 29th, also at 6:30 and also at the multipurpose room at the community center. And this one, I would urge the board as much as possible for you all to be present. Unlike Phase 3, which is construction that's been approved, we're still in the planning stages of the Great Sand Lakes or Phase 3A project. So it's a very important discussion for the community and also with the board members. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank
Excuse
you.
me. Joe, you said 10:21?
10/29, October 29th, which
29.
is 3 weeks from tomorrow, 6:30 PM, multipurpose room, community center.
Thank you.
And we do have the notes up around town and also on the website. Thank you.
So, consent agenda.
I move that we approve the Select Board meeting minutes for September 23rd, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. And item number 6. The Pine Oaks Village Phase 4 project eligibility letter, so I'm not trying to read over you.
No, that's fine. I'm happy to have you read right over me.
So, Joe, if you want to give us an update on the extension, as you shared with us about the 30-day review
Thank you.
process.
As you'll see in your packet, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities did finally reach out to the town. Last week, I spoke with Alana Murphy, Senior Planning Assistant at the EOHLC. The extension has been granted for the town through Friday, November 1st, 2024. So that process will continue. As I informed the board in an email to the board, my recommendation is that you either use October 21st as your meeting to review the letter or October 28th, whichever you prefer. The letter is still being constructed. We're still receiving comments. However, we did receive all 5 parts. The state apologizes for the oversight. Those 5 parts have already been posted to the website. So anyone that's been tracking it, you'll see that parts 1 through 5 are there. The only thing new is Part 3 and Part 4. Everything else was confirmed to be up to date and accurate. Secondly, I spoke today, Peter Freeman, attorney for the applicant, contacted me to let me know that although the state has considered the site visit to have occurred, the site visit occurred without any invitation to the town. So Pine Oaks, through their attorney, is looking to have the state come back and to do a site visit at such a time that the site visit may create comments that we also want to put in the response letter. So I'm hoping to hear back from Attorney Freeman tomorrow on when that date will be. And I'll certainly keep everyone posted.
Thank you, Joe.
Will that be open to the public or just staff?
You're gonna have to stand at the microphone.
Yeah, you gotta go to...
I was going to ask the same question, Richard, so if you want to sit, you can sit.
Madam Chair, Richard Wastick, if I may, through you to the town administrator, is that going to be a public site inspection or just strictly for staff?
So technically, it's not, oh, he left, okay. Technically, neither. The site visit is a required process for the applicant and the state to go through. So it's really not the town's meeting. The only concerns that I would have is parking and accessibility and all that. However, We know there's a lot of interest, so if we have enough lead time, we can certainly try to make ride shares available and all that. But technically speaking, this is the Pine Oaks applicant and the state's site visit that the town can be a part of.
Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Except if 3 or more selectmen show up and we actually post it as a selectmen's meeting, at which point it becomes a public meeting, at least our part of it.
So, Madam Chair, I would discourage that. Under the open meeting law, site visits are not a public meeting and don't have to have notice or anything of that nature. My recommendation would be, as other boards have done, you may wish to call a board meeting before or after so that your deliberations can be recorded and people can hear that. But site visits are exempt under the open meeting law.
I get that, except that if the purpose of the meeting is for us to go over things and engage in the dialogue about what it is that we're seeing at the site, then we are deliberating. I mean, the moment we start saying, you see that over there, that's where the exit is, start having that kind of discussion about the actual site, it becomes a deliberation.
I don't recall what we did with Chloe's Path, but we could certainly follow that process. I mean, I don't remember if everybody, I think all of us attended that, the Chloe's Path site meeting, so I don't
I don't think we
recall.
talked about anything there, though.
Probably not, so we could also make that the point, is that we wouldn't discuss anything on site, we just follow through. That's what we did at Chloe's Path. Anyway, we can talk about how to proceed, and you're waiting to get that date.
Correct, yeah. Attorney Freeman called this afternoon, said he was going to be contacting the state, so
Okay.
as soon as I hear it, we'll
Pete, did you have
provide
something?
the information.
Yeah, if I could, Madam Chair. So I realize, the purpose of the walk. I realize the town administrator talking about the formulating the letter. And I know Pine Oaks goes before the ZBA, but clearly they indicated that they have information available at this time, and specifically to some of the great questions that Selectman McCaskill raised last week. Does it make any sense to bring them before us to answer some questions to help us?
Well, I believe it was Bob Doan indicated, the site plan that I was asking about as well, the stamp site plan, that's not part of their application. So
Understood.
all of that will be part of the process through zoning. And so, I mean, asking them to come to us with that information, I don't know that we can certainly do that, but at the same token, it's all gonna be vetted through the appropriate process.
And I don't disagree that it will still be vetted through that process, but I just didn't know if they came before us with an opportunity to answer some of those questions, we could see some of the information ahead of time.
Yeah, Joe, I think that you could reach out to ask them if they would be willing to share the site plan that is supposedly already in place that shows buffer zones, et cetera, because that's the kind of stuff that Amy needs as well to,
And some of the other studies that they did, whether it had to do with, wetlands or whatever else.
yeah,
that
the
they-
vernal pools and all that, that's what I'm saying, is buffer zones and vernal pools and all that. Amy needs all that information to vet, so, as she referenced in her analysis. So I guess you could reach out to see if they would be willing to share those documents with us ahead of time and have a meeting here to run through those things.
I did have a conversation last week with Bob Doan and Greg Winston generally. They're looking to go in front of the town's community development group, which is our regulatory agents. I've asked that they not do that yet while we're doing the 30-day review and response to that regulated activity. I would also suggest that I'd be more comfortable having all of that discussion in a meeting like this, either a select board meeting or a standalone select board meeting for those purposes, rather than just confine it to the regulatory staff. I think there's keen interest in this, and there's a review process anyway. So my recommendation would be to do that at a public meeting.
Yeah, but you're saying after the letter goes in.
I don't have any qualms if the select board wants to have that. I don't think it's appropriate for them to seek, as they've said, informal review by the town. I think people are going to get confused by what informal review is, and quite frankly, that's not how we operate the community development team,
Okay,
generally speaking. Certainly not when there's known applications before the town.
thank you, Joe. Did you have a follow-up? Oh. Hi.
Hi. Paula Miles, 163 Main Street. I was on conversation with Amy Usowski today, and what I understand is that they cannot do any of the studies of the pools and such because, I'm sorry, I don't have much voice, because no detailed stamped site plans have come in.
That's right,
from the
that's what we're
developer.
saying.
Okay.
Right.
So we're still waiting
So
for that.
That's
We'll-
right. Amy would need a stamped site plan showing the appropriate buffer zones and the different wetland delineations and all of that in order to assess the
Right,
site
so
plan.
any of those issues we're worried about, the septic runoff, the runoff from the pavement, all of that has to
Right,
wait.
but what I'm saying is when we talked about that at our meeting, where we talked about a site plan, according to Bob, he referenced that they had a site plan. So Select Board Member Pekarsky is noting, could we have them come in and show us what they have
Okay.
as we work our way through this process?
Thank you.
So I'm suggesting that the town administrator reach out to see if we could have a meeting with them to run through those documents if they're willing to share them.
So we're waiting for traffic and we're waiting for environmental studies.
They have their
and
own
site plan.
traffic, but this is not on, this full discussion isn't on the agenda, so I don't want to get into detail. They have their own traffic study. We're working on a traffic study of our own as well.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
thank you. Related to the letter, are we going to see a draft on that meeting on the 21st with all of the ideas that you've had already? Are we starting to build that letter?
Yes, the letter's been, I'm building the letter, I've been building the letter for weeks. The target is October 21st, so you have time to react to it, and if we need another meeting to add content.
Thank you. And then the eligibility process is kind of remarkable. We're being asked or the state's being asked to weigh in on the eligibility of this project. And as we heard from our assessor last week, it's not even 100% determined that they own all the land yet. How does the state make that decision? And I know that this state or this organization is, everybody's trying to fix the housing emergency without looking at anything else. Matter of fact, one of our delegates last week gave the pitch, that Pine Oaks turned everything over to us, even though we didn't get it from the state. And I would thank the state or the organization for their apology and quickly sending it out so that we can actually act. But Joe, looking at the information that, thank you for gathering for me, I've shared it with a few, but the Bank Street affordable housing that we just passed, the West Harwich affordable housing that we're working on, and the Pleasant Lake, with the units that adds, that puts us at almost 6%, 5.99% if our math is correct. Does the town get to weigh in? Because I know the safe harbor starts at 10%. This project will put us over 10%. Is there any thought to whether or not we're going to have a say and control over anything that goes over that 10%? And let me further by just adding, looking at every other town's also, thank you for this, looking at every other town, Harwich isn't doing that bad. A lot of towns are below the 6% number, the 10% number, or below our 6%, and there's only a couple that are almost there. And those are those massive projects that if you look at Barnstable or 28 in Yarmouth, do we get any say? And when do we make that pitch that we should get a say?
So if you mean the safe harbor say regarding 40B,
Yeah, and progress.
it's not until the threshold has been exceeded. So if those projects you mentioned and this proposed project get the town over the 10%, anything after that, once it's validated, you would have say. Anything prior to that, you would not, generally speaking.
Even though the approvals will be based on going over the safe harbor number, you don't think that I'm only asking your opinion, or where do we go? Do we go to council and ask? Because we should certainly have a say over 10%. Do we have any option on that, or once they're applied for, whether it goes to 15% or not, we have no say?
Not until you've crossed the threshold and it's been certified. Part of the problem that I see is that the current application is talking about multi-year phases. So as you're bringing in year-round units, you're driving up the denominator of year-round units. So you're always having to add more. No one really ever hits 10, you hit 11 or 13. Until you've been certified as over 10, you do not have the say of safe harbor.
And that's with built units.
Say again?
That's with built units.
Correct. That would be when DHCD's successor, I did great last week. EOHLC says we reviewed everything. They do it on an annual basis. The year-round units, they derive from federal census numbers. So in the out years, they rely upon the American Community Survey. So they're estimates, but it's that denominator number, the more that goes up, the more you have to do bigger to get over it. But to try to be clearer, until you've been certified as over the 10%, you do not have the ability.
So when we're doing Pine Oaks 4, we have a phase 1 of that, phase 2 of that, phase 3 of that. So in phase 3, because they're applying for one permit, if we issue that one permit, then it's a done deal.
That's one of the things we're evaluating, because I believe they were talking about applying for multiple permits. And that is a question that we have to council, is even though you're talking about project eligibility, and you're talking about a 5-phase project that has funding mechanisms, they're not looking for a single comprehensive permit, is my understanding. And so I think what you're getting to, you look at 248 units, but it may become more problematic because you're not getting all 248 attributed at one time, at one reckoning.
Yeah, and I would just close with the 248 units in one spot does not fit in with the definition and the route of housing everyone else is taking. It's taking it all and jamming it into one corner of town, a 2-square-mile radius, and that's not fitting in the character of the community whatsoever. And I really hope Pine Oaks comes back and listens to the conversations and does single permits and tries this out. As they admitted themselves, the road is overburdened. And I reread their traffic study, and the thought of bicycles on that road is almost laughable. Because you think we have a traffic problem now, when we give the 4 feet with our 10-wheelers on the bikes coming both directions, we'll be going about 5 miles an hour down that road all day.
One way.
Thank you.
So I also had the follow-up question, as we talked about last week about the parcels, but I think what I fear is going to be the answer is that, and I just want us to vet this with council, similar to the planning board, because I had asked this question a few years ago, trying to understand how some owner's unknown land suddenly was owned, and just trying to understand that process. And I was told that the planning board nor community development approves the site plan. It is, once that engineer puts the stamp on the plan, that's who's attesting to the ownership of that land. So I guess the first question is, if there's a site plan stamp that we can start that conversation with, that will be good to know, because somebody's attesting to all those questions that we have on those assessors parcels that we want to vet further, and that will probably be in our letter, I would imagine.
Correct.
So,
If I could, before you recognize any other speakers, I do want to put out there that Attorney Freeman, when he called today, said that he would be willing to be present tonight to answer questions for any comments that came up. I told him that the game plan was that there wouldn't be comments,
Right.
as we did last week. I believe I'm still on solid ground in referring that, because board questions are something of a completely different nature, as is public comment. Everyone should be aware that anyone can make comments at public comment. However, I think it's also important to note that technically speaking, on a 40B project there, because I've heard board members and other folks talk about it, there are essentially 2 points where the town, outside of the Zoning Board of Appeals, can weigh in: project eligibility and the Zoning Board of Appeals process. So the commentary about having the applicant come before you, you can absolutely do that. It's information gathering, but as you've said, Madam Chair, none of that is a regulatory decision-making point, if I can say it that way.
100%.
So again, I've offered to Attorney Freeman that, yep, they can, will have an opportunity to come back, but no, tonight we weren't taking
right,
comments per se.
thank you. Brendan?
How you doing? Brendan Lowney, Affordable Housing Trust. Just to maybe add to the safe harbor I have a couple of notes here, but I have to clarify it. Maybe I can get you some more information on it. But also, when you have the housing production plan, that can give you temporary, put you into the safe harbor. So depending on what your plan states in progress to date. So that's something that also puts you in the safe harbor, even though you're not meeting the 10% right away. And there's another 3 criteria as well. I'll try to get you that as well.
That'd be great.
So you can maybe have more clarity on it. Okay.
Great, thank you,
Thanks.
Brenda. Okay. We good on, is everyone good on item A? New business?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we vote to approve and sign the state election warrant to be held November 5th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Madam Chair, I just advise you that the clerk has provided 4 originals, that we'd ask you to sign all 4. And as soon as those are done, we're going to transmit them directly to the clerk. So she can put them in her safe and do what she needs to do.
Great, thank you.
We still have her.
Oh, go ahead, Don.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, we still have her here, got through you. I've received 2 or 3 inquiries to me already about, okay, do you have to make an appointment to come to the town hall when you're doing that period of voting? So if you could just comment on that so everybody can hear it at the meeting. I think I know the answer, but I'd rather have the clerk say it.
Of course. Are you talking about the in-person early voting period?
In-person early voting in this building.
Yes, so in-person early voting will run October 19th, which is a Saturday, through Friday, November 1st. Hours are on our website, were approved by you last week, and folks do not need an appointment to come in during that period. They just stop in at our office, check in like it were election day, and they get their ballot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emma.
We kind of
Any
figured
other
we'd
comments
approve
on
it.
that? I took the vote, right?
Yep.
Uh,
Madam Chair, I'd like to have a discussion on fiscal year 2026 budget message.
Thank you. Joe will hand the budget message.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and let me start out with apologies. I've been using inarticulate language. According to the charter, what you're supposed to create is a general policy statement, which then drives the budget process that I will manage. And then when I return the budget to you, I have a budget message that goes with that. So we're tweaking the agenda topic tonight, that your budget message will be the creation of a general policy statement. And to that, you should have a memorandum from me in front of you that I was able to complete this afternoon, that we will put back in the packet next week under correspondence. So if it helps, Madam Chair, I can certainly read from that memo.
Thank you.
This memorandum corresponds to your discussion and possible vote on a general policy statement to guide the town administrator in developing the budget request for the ensuing year. That is a quote from the Harwich Charter, Chapter 9, Section 2, Clause 9-2-2, which is under your agenda item of New Business B, FY 2026 Budget Message. As you know, this policy statement discussion follows the current financial assessment, which the Finance Director and I presented last week. As you may recall, we discussed in that meeting the concept of relying upon a, quote, level service budget, end quote, maybe one upon which the board builds the general policy statement. A level service budget is one that maintains the same level of services and staff as the previous fiscal year. However, costs, inflation, and contracts can increase year over year, which can lead to a level service budget increasing in the next fiscal year. This concept is also known as a maintenance budget. A level funded budget, by contrast, as defined by the Commonwealth's Division of Local Services, is a budget, quote, which repeats the same appropriation given to each municipal department for the new year, close quote, and, quote, is tantamount to a budget cut from the prior year, close quote. Either budget planning scenario allows for discretionary funding of remaining funds for potential, what we call enhancements of services. Therefore, I recommend that you adopt a general policy statement which calls for a level service budget process to begin the budget building for fiscal year 2026. Excuse me, Madam Chair. So that concludes the memo. My commentary would be, as you heard the Finance Director say last week, in about 11 days, we should have a number that was submitted to the state for free cash. Soon after that, we expect that fiscal year 2024 books would be completely closed, so we would have a full year-over-year comparison. We would also know exactly where we are in the first quarter of fiscal year 2025. By going with the level service budget, it preserves status quo in the short term. And as our numbers come in, and as the budgets are being built, we can see those numbers and share those with the board. It does everything to support the budget process as the charter requires, because the charter requires department heads to submit budgets to the town administrator no later than the first Friday in December. As I've shared with the board, we traditionally try to do that ahead of Thanksgiving. As the finance director said last week, once he closes fiscal year '24, that's the prime time for us to open fiscal year '26 for budget purposes. So it's not an end-all, be-all. It's a general policy statement. It affords us the opportunity to accept data, to analyze data, and report back. And I think it would tie well with the concept of having a preliminary meeting of some sort of, as you've discussed with the Finance Committee. And then last but not least, the capital outlay process is beginning this month. As you know, the Capital Outlay Committee has a full 7-member complement for the first time in years, which is great. I've already had conversations with the chairman, and we're relying upon an assumption on free cash, but also other available sources. So numbers are starting to take shape, and I think it's the prudent course that you do level service rather than look for enhancements of services now.
Thank you, Joe. Any comments or questions from board members on the message? Okay. Oh.
Madam Chair, if I could, before Richard
Sure,
speaks,
go
just
ahead.
to Joe's point, and because I read it myself, is that this is a general budget,
Policy message.
yeah, message, right? No, it's not.
No, it isn't a policy
It's
message.
not the message, I'm sorry.
No.
You used the right term.
Is that what you were trying?
General policy statement.
Statement, thank you, that's the word I'm looking for, digging deep. So again, this is just a general statement, this isn't the message, so, I was confused leading up to tonight's meeting, I thought we were running into a message where it is just a general statement, so. I do notice, and just for my own understanding, I noticed we have it listed as just a discussion, so I assume we're not voting on it as a group tonight, as a collective unit?
Discussion point, yeah.
Okay, but is this
We will
a
have.
statement that we will
Right.
support, okay?
Right. Don, did you? Sorry, Richard.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed, because I feel like we're in the same trajectory we were last year and the year before. Marty, I ask, has anybody in any department been given any information about developing anything for the budget for this year?
Yes.
Okay, and it was based on,
I don't understand the question.
well, budgets are based on some premise. It's based on the assumption that level services would happen, or?
Yes, so I believe I reported over the summer and again last week that I've been directing department heads to look at first their personnel costs, absent from any cost of living adjustments. And that action constitutes a level services budget. What it accounts for is contractual items outside of cost of living. It accounts for regular step increases that we assume on regular behavior would happen. It assumes progressing through the steps and progressing through longevity. It also assumes potential retirements and therefore bringing in staff that perhaps would not come in at the higher level of the retiree. So that's been the direction on the personnel.
But they're already working on it.
Correct.
Okay.
I've also advised them that in working with the finance director, and given where we usually are this time every year in the budget process, we don't know the numbers that are available. So if we maintain the services and personnel that we have today, and we take that tack on October 7th and carry it throughout the rest of this calendar year, as you get solid numbers coming in from your finance director, you're going to have a better understanding of what may be available for, quote, discretionary, which would be above and beyond existing services.
And that's, if I might, Madam Chair, that's where I'm coming from. I would be hard put to support anything, even enhancement of service, because we still have in front of us a review of all of the non-union managers that are coming up. That's going to be pricey. There's a bunch of things that are going to happen. This is a union renegotiation year, too. So I'd be hard put, and to Michael's point from a few weeks ago, we've got a whole bunch of projects that are backed up. I'd be hard put to support any additional projects until we kind of clear that up. And the last one that I'm aware of that's big is Brooks Academy. I really don't know that I would support even capital stuff other than sewering this year until we can unwind our financial situation, because both things are going to be expensive, more projects and trying to recalibrate what we pay people because we've become uncompetitive.
Right, and so we need numbers, to Joe's point, we need the numbers, and Eric said that both times he spoke with us, he would have them after 10/18. So I think we're
I'm just
looking-
putting it out there as a matter of policy that I would probably not support even the enhancement of services.
So I think we're not trying to offer an enhancement of services, we're trying to say that we're gonna level service. So,
When we actually get to our policy statement,
understood, I'm just saying Joe's guidance is to not offer enhancement of services. I'm just trying to make that point for the public. Joe?
If I could, again, the conclusion of the memo states, therefore, I recommend that you adopt a general policy statement which calls for a level service budget process to begin the process.
Right.
The level service budget does not allow for enhancement of services in the beginning.
this paragraph right before that says, either budget planning scenario allows for discretionary spending of remaining funds for potential enhancement of services. That's the immediate precedent sentence to the one you just read. And this isn't our policy statement anyway.
No.
It's a board statement
Right.
that instructs
Right.
the town about what we would be willing to accept. So I'm aiming at that, because when we get to that point, I'd really be hard put to support any enhancement of services without having a better idea, especially in these economic times.
Mm-hmm.
All of the sewering and everything is a lot more expensive than it was 10 years ago.
Agreed, yep. Richard?
Just a clarification I'm looking for in my role as Chair of the Council on Aging. That general policy or your budget message, would it preclude a department or a committee to not have enhanced services that were self-funded? For instance, if a committee or a department were able to grant something out, because what I'm hearing right now, the no enhanced services, it's like we're level funding, which I get, you're gonna hold it, but if it can be self-funded, will those enhanced services be considered?
Well, I'll look to you because you're the budget master, but I would say that if it's self-funded, I mean, we're not going to looking to cut something, so.
It would have to actually be looked at on a case-by-case basis, because grants are not durably available through the
Just make a
years.
general statement, so I just want to say there may be situations where it is self-funded.
Right. And so, to that point, I mean, I'm not going to speak for the board, but I will say that we're not looking to cut. So if it's level funded, I would imagine it's going to stay in place.
And just to wordsmith, and because I think it's important, and it says it in Joe's outline, it's level service budget, not level funded budget.
Did I say level funded?
and
I
I just
mean
wanna-
level
yeah.
service, sorry, yep.
To that point and to that action, I think what we can talk about right now is we're looking at a maintenance budget. And to me, a maintenance budget has a positive overtone to it.
It's a better word. yeah.
Sure, absolutely, and I'm going to look in the general direction of the audience and those that are served by this. What the town is saying at the outset of budget development is that we are in a position, based on the finances that we reviewed last week generally, where the town expects to maintain existing services and staff. That's not to say that there couldn't be enhancements or growth during the budget process, but rather at this point, I think the conservative, prudent approach, which has served this town well with our AAA bond rating, et cetera, is to maintain that what we have today. So it is a maintenance budget that I'm recommending.
Thank you, Joe. Any other comments from board members? Michael?
Do we need a motion or just a consensus that that's the direction we want to go?
You don't need a vote, right? Because it's just,
So the charter says that you will develop a general policy statement. It's one of the tasks that we have to check off. So I think at some point there should be a vote of the board.
well, don't you think we should have that vote when we put that message?
I think that would be wonderful,
So,
as the person who will then receive that statement.
It'll be a vote on the statement in writing.
Right, exactly. So let's slate that for,
So I think then it's fair to actually answer Mr. McCaskill's question. The answer would be consensus is fine tonight if it leads to a policy statement that you direct. I hope that was clear.
and I think it is clear, because if no one has any further comments, I know abutting the rebutting, excuse.
You get to
We are
comment on
abutting
mine,
each
it's
Perhaps
understood.
we can have it on the
Butters, but-
agenda next week?
Yes, exactly, so we'll put that message on. I hear it as the consensus, because nobody's rebutting what you've stated in the memo. So let's go with putting that forward next week. All
With a
right?
draft as soon as possible in our packet, even before the packet.
As soon as, so if the draft can't be put in ahead of, then this is where we had that other discussion about pushing out something a week. So I'd rather get it in for next week. If it gets in there on Friday, it gets in there on Friday, unless you want a week to review it, and then I would push it to the following agenda.
Nope.
Okay. All right. On to item C.
I move that we vote to authorize Manning College of Nursing and Health Sciences at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, to use,
It's, the wording's
who's,
not right.
who's messing with me?
Yeah, so, no,
All right,
That's why
to
I asked you
use,
to read tonight, Jeff.
use-
yeah, that's Boston,
These are Easter eggs.
Get
for the
rid of
use, for the
If
use,
Pete had been saying this, it would have been
use
right.
the Harwich,
to
get rid
use
of.
the Harwich Town Seal for UMass Boston's Center for Social and Demographic Research on Aging, CSDRA.
Second all those words.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, of course, you know I do.
Go ahead, Pete.
If I could, so do I assume, and through you to the town administrator, that the various town departments are aware of this and support this, whether it's COA or any other group?
So there's the great old adage about the word assume, that was popularized in
Tony read.
pop culture, yes. I can tell you that when this request came in, my inquiry to my staff was, I always thought that Mark, you got to shift for a second. Thank you. That the town seal may have fallen under the purview of the town clerk, but I was advised by the team that the belief is that the select board authorizes the use of it, and that's probably a local bylaw.
And while,
And for that reason, we didn't check it with anybody because there's a partner that you have in government that's looking to use our seal.
I don't know if that answered the question. The electronic seal would be the purview of the select board, so when someone like this study is, yes, I, as the town clerk, am the keeper of the physical seal that we use to attest documents as being official town documents, but the select board has the privilege of deciding how to use the electronic version.
and thank you for that, I probably
Yes.
didn't ask the correct question, so I guess my question is, are we encouraging this survey to take place? Is there a entity in this community that wants this survey to occur?
It's,
Okay,
yeah,
so,
anyway.
and then, well, since you're coming up, Richard, have you seen the survey? Has your group seen the survey?
We are contracted with UMass Boston to do basically needs analysis, and I believe that Julie Wittes, the director of the Council on Aging, has been before you to talk about that program that has just kicked off last week. We had a meeting with the folks from UMass Boston. They're doing a needs analysis over the next year that you will be a part of at some point as part of a focus group. They're the ones, my belief is, the ones requesting this information.
All right, thank you. And again, I know I go to an extreme here, but if the maker of the motion would be in agreement to add the term one-time use of the seal?
I thought that was in my motion. You didn't hear it throughout all of that?
It was in my second.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I could, that point is well taken, that we understand that we're releasing our seal for this survey and this survey only.
Only,
Yep.
right. Okay, so any other discussion?
I'm just happy, and it gives me great comfort to know that Emily is defending our seal vehemently. So I have nothing else.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Thank you.
Next item.
So, Madam Chair, if I could, this is a rather unique situation. Although you will see in your packet under item D, the town does have that was created by town council, I believe, 3 years ago, a film location agreement. The town has actually never had an opportunity to execute said agreement, simply because every time production companies are coming here, they're encroaching upon private property and have the permission of the private property. But you can see in your packet the draft language from council with several points to be filled in this evening by your discussion amongst the board itself, and I think with representatives of the production company who are here. Yep, thank you. And you can also see what they're looking for the use of town filming locations. Given that we have never executed one of these for public property in recent memory, there is no fee structure because it's an agreement. I can tell you that other communities charge along the lines of $50 for an application fee and $150 for the use of town property, so to speak. So there will be at one point for you to determine what the dollar amount should be relative to this license agreement.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Questions from board members? Don?
Maybe the only person here who's got a daughter who's got a SAG card. So the question I have is
SAG card.
Screen Actors Guild.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
What's the rating of the movie? And
Madam Chair, I think if I could, we do have representatives from,
yeah,
I believe it's Mermaid Feature Film LLC. We've got seating for two if you'd like to take the main stage.
well, collaterally, I wasn't quite finished. And collaterally, given my familiarity with Animal House, I'd like to also know, basic tenets of the movie, because that blew through 3 colleges before somebody inadvertently said, "Oh, sure," and they regretted it ever since.
PG-13.
Could you just identify yourself? for the record,
Oh,
please?
Ryan Leeson, producer of the film. So it's a PG-13 film movie, no violence, no nudity, no adult situations, very much a family-friendly coming-of-age story.
Madam Chair, if I could, I would add for the record, they've already been in touch with the Monomoy Regional School District. I believe they've already completed filming, for the most part, at Monomoy High School. Yep.
Yeah.
So they have been approved for that, and so now the question comes before you for the purposes in their schedule.
And the dates that we have here outlined for, are the only dates and the only locations.
Yes, so Cindy Williams, Executive Director of the Harwich Chamber, who has been working closely with them. And yes, the addendum I had sent in, those are the dates and the times for each town-owned property.
Not trying to push this to Chatham.
No, sir.
Or should I say Nantucket?
Are there any questions on the document that Cindy submitted with the dates and locations and times?
Madam Chair, sorry.
No, feel free.
The only thing I would add is because you're doing a film location agreement, this is in lieu of any entertainment or parade permits or things of that nature.
Right.
So everything that you see on there may have had a one-off application or permit. What the film location agreement is meant to achieve is it's your Swiss Army knife, if I can use this. That still lands, right? People know the Swiss Army knife?
You're fine.
What's a Swiss Army knife?
I knew what SAG was. In any event, it's meant to be all-encompassing if the two parties agree.
Thank you. And is there any, I'm just looking through again, I don't recall, oh yeah, okay, there it is, the liability insurance. Okay. And so you'll obviously submit the comprehensive liability insurance binder, certificate of insurance to the town.
Absolutely.
Great. That was my only question. Any other questions, Pete?
If I could, you think I had some questions for the seal, wait till you. But I appreciate Don's question about the film and the appropriateness of using town land for it. So back to quickly on the fees paid to the town, as you alluded to this agreement. So was your point that, I assume at the community center, we have a facilities use fee, right? If they're gonna take a room, there's a fee associated with that.
Correct.
That's separate and apart from this? Was that your point?
No, the film location agreement stands ahead of all of those.
Okay.
All of
So
those
they wouldn't then
uses-
pay that?
Correct. This would
Gotcha.
be through this document.
All right, thank you. So with that in mind, do we have any idea what, quantity of rooms we're looking to take over at the community center?
For the community center, we basically have one room that we'll be filming at, one room that we'll kind of do like hair and makeup, wardrobe at, and then the outside area, we can put like tables and chairs and like pop-up tents, just to kind of keep the crew separate. So basically trying to stay out of the way of everybody there, small footprint, and to be able to work with them, alongside them, to make sure that we don't interfere with anything that, takes place at the community center.
And it sounds as if this went to the community center director and is in agreement with this use. If I can continue, Madam Chair?
Sure.
I also noticed that it talks about Saquatucket Harbor. Has the harbor master signed off on this as well?
So the harbor master is aware of the film location agreement. When he had contact with the production company, he deferred to this process. He normally wouldn't necessarily have objection if the board is allowing this.
I guess my only question is, does it impact any of his daily operations if we approve it? So, but if he's gonna defer to us, then I guess that's
Depends on the film schedule.
sorry?
It depends on the film schedule.
Right, which is.
Haven't asked that yet.
Yeah, and our shot there would be very minimal too. It'd basically just be a couple characters on a bike going up the sidewalk. So it'd be something that we wouldn't have to interfere with, like traffic flow or anything that takes place at the actual harbor.
Yeah, and yeah, I take you on your word. I just see that it's booked from 9 to 12 with, 15 vehicles and 3 trucks on site, so I just didn't want it to impact his operation at the harbor. And it talks about, and this is where I'm really going at the end here, is, so behind the community center, on picnic tables and fields. And then number 3 in the agreement states, producer may place all necessary facilities, equipment, vehicles, props, temporary structures, and personnel on the location and agrees to remove some after completion of the work. We just went through an issue on those fields. So what might be on those fields as far as equipment, infrastructure, et cetera?
Don't think we're actually needing to film on the fields at all anymore.
It's not gonna be on the field at all?
So it's gonna basically all take place in the community center, so we never actually have to go on the fields at all.
Okay, thank you for that. And the only other note I'll make, if this becomes part of the public record, is that there are a couple addresses on here that are not town property, at least if it.
That was just my addendum, so you knew where else that they would be.
Agreed, I just don't want it to, I'm trying to find it if it's still on this one.
It was on, I think, Pete, it was on my Word document that I sent you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, see, October 17th, it talks about Harwich Paint and Decorating. I'm fine with it, I just want people to understand, we're not approving use of those locations, that's all, if this becomes a public document.
Right, then the non,
Yeah. Yeah, and I
properties.
think 928, Route 28 is an outsider, so.
Right, and just for clarification, on the October 24th, even if they were going to be at the fields, the cars were noted as being in the parking lot.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I could, based on the previous speaker, so the way that I look at the Mermaid Film filming schedule for town-owned spaces document, which I think was emailed to everybody, and will be in the correspondence for next week, what you're looking at is, so October 24th is Harwich Community Center, October 17th is Saquatucket Harbor, October 17th is at a private location that's immaterial to this discussion, October 24th, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Harwich Community Center. October 24th, again, the Harwich Community Center. October 25th, the reference to the private address, I would ask you to make note of, they're leaving a private residence and then going upon the road. So that's where we talked about a parade permit usually, so that would impact upon the roadway during those times. So we would want to reference that address, because it's the beginning point of where they access the public way.
And I have no objection to that, provided, yeah, so it talks about onto Route 28.
Yeah, yep. So, and then generally speaking, Madam Chair, members of the board, if you can look at the standard film location agreement, we know that item 1 would be filled in by saying that if the board agrees today's date would be used, it would be between the town of Harwich and Mermaid Feature Film LLC. And then we talk about the dates of commencing on October 17th and terminating on October 25th, assuming, as you can see, subject to change of weather, et cetera. Filming locations, that could be filled in by saying referring to the schedule that is Appendix A. And then really, I think the only other item to be filled in is the dollar amount.
Right.
And again, for my purposes, my recommendation to the board would be, you want to come up with a sum that makes sure that the town is covered for all the uses. We're not looking to make profit per se, because we're not a profit enterprise. But I couldn't give you, I could give you an estimate, I couldn't give you an actual number.
And so, just on that, what you shared previously, which is normally a $50 application fee and a $150 fee.
So there's a town near us that has far more practice at this than we do, and for comparison purposes, we looked at that.
Yeah,
We're not
so-
aware if there's any other fees that they also associate. We didn't find a completed packet in our
Okay.
reconnaissance.
So for simplification here, because we don't have quote-unquote an application, we could say just a flat fee of 200 if the board wanted to.
Or 1,500 perhaps, if somebody were looking for a number to start with.
Okay. Thank you. I don't know how that went to that, but
I'm just trying to stimulate discussion between the two parties.
it was a.
So just so you all know, again, Cindy Williams from the Harwich Chamber, this is a low to moderate budget film. It's not Warner Brothers or Pixar. It is, as Ryan stated earlier, a wonderful coming-of-age story, and it's going to show off our wonderful town in many ways. So if you don't mind keeping that in mind.
Thank you, Cindy. Jeff?
Where are you based out of, Ryan?
Originally New Mexico, but I've been in Los Angeles for a while.
So your company is based out of California?
Yeah, but my partner's from Boston, so we film a lot like in Boston, and this is actually my second time filming out in Harwich.
Excellent.
Oh, nice.
Sweet.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. I think this is great.
Madam Chair.
I think emotions are
Madam Chair. I move that we approve the proposed film location agreement with Mermaid Feature Film LLC with the blanks filled in as presented by the town administrator for a flat fee of $200.
Thank you, and hold that for one moment, because Dawn has a
The thought
follow-up.
occurred to me, and I'm not trying to
Can I get a second on that?
jack up the price here.
He had his hand up.
Is there going to be any police presence that's coordinating your movements?
So, the 25th, the October 25th, if everything goes as we hope tonight, there will be police details arranged. I have already spoken with the police chief.
Are they overtime details, or are they just regular shift details?
That I didn't get into.
That's why I was asking.
I don't
Second.
think that really,
So moved and seconded.
Second.
For discussion, but the details would be not on the Harwich Police, it would be on the film.
Right, it would be
Oh,
details
this-
that they would.
have to
You get a
hire-
direct billing?
Yeah, we're not gonna pay
Correct.
for that.
Yes.
Yeah,
The
sorry.
details, the town's not paying the details.
Correct.
Private parties paying the details.
Okay.
The detail rate is in the superior and patrols officer's contract.
yeah.
As I understood, the dollar amount for discussion purposes is to recoup any costs that the town would have through you as the licensing authority.
Along with a statement that you gratefully acknowledge the cooperation of the people of Harwich.
Moved and seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Do you have anything?
My only comment is, I was leaning more towards Joe's number, to be honest with you. I think two's a little low. I understand it's a lower budget film, but I think $200 is giving the house away, but I'm not gonna sit here and debate this any longer, so.
Okay, so we've
You were
got
next, Ernest?
a motion. What? Did you have a follow-up?
No, I was going to talk about points, distribution rights and things of that nature, so I think a flat fee will do well.
Ryan's never coming back here. I got a feeling.
This is all public access content that he can use in any way that he wants.
Ryan can't wait to get out of here.
This goes into
Moved and
reruns.
seconded.
Moved and seconded. No other further discussion, correct? All in favor? Aye.
So, Madam Chair, we'll put the document together. We can DocuSign that if that works.
Yes.
We can do DocuSign on your end as well.
yeah, you can document.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Get out of here while you can, Ryan. Thank
Best
you.
of luck.
We may have a question, so leave.
We'd like cameos.
There you go.
Thank you.
Oh, it could be the mermaid. All right.
All right,
I could tell, everyone.
all right, so now old business.
So Mark Drainville saw all of that, and yet he remains. He is here from GHD as the principal. If you have any questions on The follow-up discussion that you've had, it's been referred to as different things. I know originally we talked about an owner's project manager, which is the phrase that was used in March of 2019 for Phase 2, which then morphed into a community outreach person through Weston and Sampson. So I did as directed. Mark and I talked about it. Mark worked with on some project managers and directors in his organization. I believe in your packet, you'll see what they did would be like a needs assessment, so to speak, and then some documents that either Mark or I could talk to as you discuss this potential position.
Thank you, Joe. Does any board member want to open up the discussion, or do we want to hear first any questions specifically related to the positions offered from Mark? Is there
I
any-
prefer to hear from Mark.
Right. Mark, do you mind
Get the
coming
ball
up?
rolling.
And just to clarify, Madam Chair, are these draft documents from you?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Yes. So I guess, Mark Drainville with GHD. So I did listen to the select board meeting from 2 weeks ago, and I put these together based on my understanding of the discussions. So what I put together is, one of the sheets is some things that we would need input from the town on during the construction project. And then the other two are just two different types of, different levels of roles. Again, trying to match up what I heard in the meeting a couple of weeks ago. So,
So I'll start the discussion, because when I looked at these different positions, to me, what I felt like I was talking about anyway at that meeting was your first description, which is really more, outreach in the sense of, trying to help alleviate and yet make sure information is getting out there to the public without putting more on Joe or staff or, who they're currently working. I think the understanding I have is that things are moving along and the information is, no pun intended, flowing to you guys. But in any case, I think, I envision this as something that's there as, somebody out there able to keep moving everything without burdening staff. So I look at the first job description, and do you agree that that would be?
So I did use two different terms, just if you want to use
Yeah,
those.
okay.
I called one a project coordinator and one a project manager, just if you want to.
Yeah, the coordinator's the one I'm looking at, that I was in favor of, but I'll go to other board members if you have specific questions for Mark or preference for the descriptions in the jobs. Pete, did you?
I want to just go a slightly different path if I could, because we talked as a group about your company providing some level of this to the town. And so could you get into greater detail with that, about, what you folks offer, explain that to us a little bit better?
So, I guess what I put here is a combination of things that we need the town to do, as well as some assistance that we usually would get from the town.
Can you just read the header of that document?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's minimum needed from the town during Phase 3 construction. And I'm happy to talk through those individual items to make the distinction, but, we serve as an interface with the public as you ask us to. So, I think that's one of the things that you'd raised before. We do the public informational sessions, we lead those. When calls come in, I think you know that if you turn them over to me or to Jeff Craig, that, we will handle those and as they come in. So, it's hard to know if you're gonna get, 2 questions or 20 or, 50 questions, but, we handle them as needed when they come in. So, it's just, part of what we would do. So, I'm happy to talk through these minimum requirements if you'd like to, but it's.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, because I think, as you're saying, these are the things you need from the town.
Right.
So that we can get a good understanding on
Yep.
what this position should look like.
So the first thing I have on here is 10 monthly progress meetings. Every month, there's a progress meeting that's attended by the contractor, the engineer, a representative from the town, as well as the funding agency, and sometimes DEP will attend those. So those are You know, it's just let everybody know where things stand on the project.
And Joe's already attending those. Are you attending? those?
So technically, I lead them. We have our monthly coming up tomorrow morning. I do want to correct one minor thing. Mark had said sometimes the town attends or something to that effect. I want to put it out there that police, fire, other public safety, public works, the school systems, transportation manager, we have a number of town employees engaged in those discussions. That's how we did it in Phase 2, separate from the outreach position. There are going to be times when we're talking about funding, so we'll bring in the finance people. There are times when we may talk about matters that encroach upon public health, so we'd have the health director. So at any one of these monthly meetings, there are anywhere from 5 to 10 town employees of certain expertise that are there, if I'm understanding the meetings correctly.
Yep, that's correct, yeah.
Well, that's helpful. Thank you.
Sign monthly pay applications. The pay application, you're probably all familiar with that, but that's something that, you know, the contractor would sign, we would recommend payment, and then someone from the town would need to sign it for the contractor to get paid. Sign work change directives and change orders, so both of those have to do with changes in work in the work. Okay, that's always, the financial piece always requires a town signature on there, okay? Sign the SRF reimbursement package, that's to get the money back from the state, that's always requires a town representative to sign. Decide on requests to work holidays, work at night, and or change work hours if asked by the contractor. So that's a town decision that would need to be made.
If I could jump in on that one. Phase 2, our modus operandi on that was, because we have the progress meetings and we're doing roughly 2 to 4 week look-aheads, more often than not, those matters were brought to you for the board to determine, because when you're talking about holiday work, night work, or work hours, you're also usually talking about the noise bylaw and things of that nature. So some of the members may recall in Phase 2, there were probably a dozen or so instances where you had to vote on that, and certainly the same thing on the change orders, if it was starting to move the needle on the funding. These items so far have been things that were traditionally assigned to the administrator. I know my predecessor did some of them for Phase 1, I did that for Phase 2, and have been doing it for Phase 3 so far.
So the next item is play a role in public outreach and answering any questions. That would be from the public. Spearhead the effort to secure easements. I mean, easements are, we have those, but there are still issues that have to be managed with regard to that.
So the easements were acquired. We did that through legal counsel. You've directed me to negotiate with the 3 parties that were in negotiations with the 3 parties. I can give an update on that, but that's essentially concluding in the next couple of weeks. Then that process is done.
Okay.
Attend other meetings as needed. I have this in here because it's, you know, it depends, you know, I mean, perhaps if there's work that's gonna take place on an especially busy road, maybe there might be a special meeting that we'd have with the police just to organize that work. Attend to unexpected situations that may arise in the field. A classic example of this is a utility that is not in the position that the record drawings showed it to be. So that's a classic example of that. So we would need, you know, someone from the town to just be aware of that, because that could, you know, change, that could result in a change order. And then serve as the point of contact for changes to the town website. So, you know, this is a mixture of, you know, kind of relatively quick monthly tasks like signing the pay application, signing change orders, to, you know, progress meetings, you know, take some effort, and obviously interacting with the public can too. So it's a mixture of quick and a little bit more involved tasks.
Thank you. Are there any questions from board members, or any other avenue you want to take to look at the other descriptions that Mark provided? Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hate to disagree, but I'm going to disagree. I'm really much more in favor of a project manager, which is a little bit more of an enhancement than we had last time, in part because Dan's not in the water wastewater department right now, so we lost that curve. We just got Joe involved by himself, who's gone through this cycle before. I'd like to make sure that there's some component of this that's overseeing the actual progress, as well as answering questions, which is more than the coordinator would do.
Anybody else? Michael?
How many of these items are covered from services that you're already giving us? Is there any overlap or duplication from any of our other contracts with you?
Not with other contracts. I mean, yeah, not with other contracts.
Okay,
No.
so no duplication whatsoever.
No, the only thing we participate in these. So, let me just quickly look in here. I mean, this list that I gave here are things that we need the town to have some role in.
No, that I totally
Right,
understand.
yeah,
I'm
so-
really looking at the two different descriptions you gave, coordinator versus manager. Sorry.
These.
Yeah. Is there anything that we're currently paying for that's on that list? On either? of
On
those
either
lists?
list, yeah.
So, our contract with you is an hourly contract with a max, okay? So, you know, we would provide some of these services as you wish, okay? So, our interaction with the public would happen, that is something that we would do, okay? So, and that we can do. So,
So just to clarify there, though, when you say, so there's max, so let's just say this, I don't know, I'm just going to say there's some reason that there's outreach needed. So you're saying, like, you're covered for 20 hours of that, but this took 30.
yeah, it doesn't get to that level, to
Okay.
be honest, you know, you know, we do what's needed
Yeah.
to help. I don't know how, you know, we tend to fill gaps that exist.
So it's not like you're going to just, like, oh, sorry, you maxed out.
No.
We're not going to
No,
answer any
that's-
more
yeah, no,
questions.
Yeah, no,
Right.
it's not specifically outlined like that, so, let me just, if I could just look and see if I can answer that question a little bit better. This was written, really as a job description, as if you were going to hire somebody, you know, so is there a duplication? I mean, I would say that I would say that they're currently, you know, Joe is filling the town role, and we're filling in on other pieces, so, I'm sorry, I lost track of the question,
So-
guys, I'm just.
So really where I'm at is I'm leaning a little more towards where Don just spoke of, more of a project manager. Thank you for writing kind of a description and education and components. Really I want to get to, is this something that your company's interested in? Or if we're going outside of that, I really want to highlight the pieces that are in the project manager, or if we go the other route, that your company's already going to do to lessen the scope, I guess, of the contract that we're going to put out there. Mark, I asked because I know that there was a case a couple months ago where there was a contract that the town administrator was entering in. A resident got up and spoke about there was duplications in some of the work already. I want to avoid that. So I want to get rid of as much duplication as we possibly can, come with an actual description. I appreciate this description, and again, I'm leaning more towards project manager. At $48 million, we certainly have contingencies in there to hire somebody to represent the board alongside of our town administrator.
So if I could clarify one thing you said earlier,
Sure.
there wasn't really a duplication between those two agreements. I didn't get up and speak at that time, but it was, I think, just a misunderstanding, which we've clarified. So,
I would reserve, because I don't want to get away, I don't want to go there, and I don't want to get away from that.
yeah, okay, all right.
Between the two contracts, a contract that was in place
Mhm.
and that contract, there was duplications.
Okay.
And I know you had a conversation with the water commissioner or water commissioners after the fact, and there was an agreement that there was a couple things that were duplicates. If that not be true, we should certainly revisit that, because that certainly is the thought of some.
Okay.
We're not here for that.
Yeah,
But if you want to have that conversation, I'd be happy to have it.
That's fine, that's fine. So your question, let me just make sure I answer your question right now, that you were asked, so I didn't write these with the intention that these are things that I kind of wrote these as a description for a position that you would want to fill, I guess, okay? This was written up really to kind of write down the tasks. I would say right now, these tasks are being covered. So I guess the decision is, this was kind of written separately if you wanted to hire somebody for that role. So I don't know, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
But in your opinion, these tasks are already being covered?
But yeah, I would say these tasks that these are being covered.
Okay.
The minimum ones.
Yeah.
Joe, did you have a follow-up?
When the discussion's done, sure.
Is this something that your company does? Project management on said?
We do, yep, we do in other towns, like when we're not providing the construction phase services. Yes, yeah, this is a positions that we have done.
And I get the minimum part now, so what you need the town to do, totally get it. Based on the other two, the coordinator versus the project manager, in your opinion, how much of that is being covered under the services that we're already paying your company for? How much duplication are we asking for?
So you wouldn't, let me answer it this way, we wouldn't, if you hired someone to do public outreach, then we wouldn't do it. So you wouldn't be paying twice, I'll put it that way. I mean, you wouldn't, if you hired someone to do, that's probably the only thing in this list here. Let's see. I mean, a lot of the items that I went through are really town tasks, If you hired somebody in one of these positions, they may take the communication with the public out of our hands. But that's probably the only thing, because a lot of the other things we're doing it's administering the construction contract.
They're all interconnected anyway.
Yeah, and that's something that the town would not want to do, because that's something you want the design, the construction phase engineer to administer.
Thank you. Jeff, are you
Thank
done,
you.
Michael?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, yes.
Just listening to the back and forth there, Mark, I'm having a hard time seeing the value added at this point. If you're already overseeing Phase 3 sewer construction project, and you're already doing public outreach, but if we were to hire another company to do public outreach, you would then not do the public outreach. For me, I would look to hire an outside company, not the same company, to do the work. Because then there's not, in my mind, and I'm certainly not saying anything against your company, in my mind, there's no check and balance. There seems to just be the same company who's now got additional funds coming to them while overseeing the project they're already overseeing. Did I say that right? Or
Yeah,
what- Am I
and I
missing
think
something?
what-
What am I
I
missing?
think what you want to say is like an owner's agent, right? Like,
Arm's length distance.
Well,
outside, a third party.
Joe,
GHD is not asking you for this.
no, I totally understand.
So that would be point number one.
Yeah.
Point number two, and I don't want to be argumentative, but I do have to correct the record. A statement was made earlier during your discussion that the only one who was around last time was Dan Pelletier.
And you.
That's incorrect. Phase 2 was my responsibility as town administrator, and I relied upon a town engineer, a finance director, and a water wastewater superintendent. And the only thing I'm missing in that equation right now is a town engineer. Now, outside of GHD, we've relied upon VHB for our town engineer stuff. So I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'm confused as to what we're looking for here, because to Mark's point, if I may say it that way, under the needs, everything else except for community outreach, you've tasked me with doing as I did in Phase 2. However, I led the community outreach forum last week, and I'll be your lead at the end of the month. I think this originally came out of an earnest ask before construction, so it's a little bit stale dated. And I think it's a little bit late for Phase 3, but you're early enough for any future phases. And I say that because we're going to find out tomorrow, Tuesday, October 8th, if the town of Dennis is going to fund a water sewer treatment, no, sorry, that's off Cape saying, a sewer treatment facility where the town of Harwich may be sending flow to if that's how you want to go. There's future construction that may need more of this. This is a topic that the former wastewater superintendent and I talked about, and I think the model that he was originally looking at is based off of the town of Barnstable. But if you look at the town of Barnstable, I believe their numbers are 120 million for their first phase, and is it truly close to $1 billion for their entire, yeah, so
Yeah.
Mark Miller's hiring somebody to be his right hand for the life of the next 20 years makes complete sense. For you folks to contemplate this role in the future makes complete sense. I don't see where it fits right now in Phase 3, other than we still desperately need a town engineer and a town surveyor. And so that could be a way that we morph this into that discussion. And then last but not least, just remind everybody that there are some bargaining responsibilities that would have to be held in a discussion like that. But
Yeah, no,
Phase 2 was a team effort,
yeah.
no different than Phase 3.
Well,
That's how it ended.
I know that initially, during the first, when we were heading down the whole sewer road, I wanted, and I believe Ed McManus wanted, a project manager for this purpose.
Mhm.
And that was early on, and we had, I think, $150,000 set aside. And then there was discussion about why did we need that, and that money, I believe, then was taken back. So I don't disagree that we've sort of missed the road on that. And if you're already doing the couple of things that I don't want to see, but it sounds like your firm has a pretty good handle on it, is I don't want the community to be floundering for information. So if that's being handled well, and if I guess I would look to you and your firm to say, well, if something ramps up and there's an influx and there's additional help needed, then I would want to know that. So I guess I'll leave it at that. That's my main concern. Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Perhaps you misunderstood me. I was saying that you're the only person that was still part of that process. The engineer that was here then isn't here now. The finance director that was here then isn't here now. The water wastewater director, superintendent who was here, isn't here now. So the background knowledge of the team is just the town administrator. That's what I was driving at, not that these people don't exist.
Jeff?
The only thing, I just want to say thank you, Joe, for stating what I was trying to say a little bit better than I did. And Mark, I just want to make sure you don't walk out of here feeling like I personally don't have confidence in your firm and that I'm not satisfied with what you're doing. I just kind of know you're doing all this already, was my only point. Thank you.
Anybody else? Joe?
As your lead, as the charter says anyway, I wouldn't hesitate to tell you folks if we need additional resources. And there's some value in having, well, there was some value in having a community outreach under the last contract, but looking back on that one, it sort of petered out because the board and the administrator and everybody was giving weekly updates at your board meetings. So I think as we embark on construction next month, and we meet tomorrow, because with construction next month, I'll be coming to you at your October 21st meeting perhaps, announcing where the trailer's going to be, where the equipment's going to be, just like we did last time. For me, what this bears out is there are some opportunities for the town, given the absence of a town engineer and a town surveyor, to reimagine that position and perhaps make it more robust on any number of topics, not the least of which is wastewater. I hope that made sense.
Thank you. Is there any action item that the board wants to take under this item?
Chair, the jury's out for me, I guess. Project manager, and I still want to explore this. Mark, I want to thank you for putting the descriptions together. It was a bit of a game changer when you said you're doing it anyway. So I'm not sure I want to spend the extra money. But a lot of what you're doing is what we're proposing in a job description. To the town administrator, the only other missing link, I certainly appreciate how involved you were. Part of why the jury's still out for me, the missing link is Dan Pelletier, because I know how much heavy lifting he did. And I know that the water commissioners and the wastewater commissioners at this point do not want to be involved in the construction phase. They want to keep themselves away from it. So even our new person is not going to be that involved. I know he'll be updated and involved, but not that involved. And then I look at everything else we have going on and think about your time and how much time can be dedicated to this. The lack of an engineer, going into all these union negotiations that we're going into. So I still see a void or overburdening the town administrator, so we're not finishing the many other tasks that we have that will keep this town successful. So as we get
And I don't disagree with that at all, if I may.
well, as we get into union negotiations and bargaining, as you said when you spoke about surveyor and engineer, there's other key roles that we're talking about, grading or regrading. There's a tremendous amount of work, if you're going to get me to vote on any new chart, that needs to be done as we start to negotiate salaries and everything else. So I'm cognizant of the fact that you are one person with one assistant and a great team around you. I don't want to come up short on a $50 million project to the public because there's too many other things to do, which is what brought me here to begin with. With tonight's information, I'm not ready to make any decision.
Anybody else?
Sorry, no, go ahead, Pete,
No,
please.
and to Michael's point, and I guess directly to you, Joe, I don't see this as a criticism of what you've done in the past or what you can do in the future. I go right to Michael's point, where I think there are so many things on the table that your time and effort is going to be needed probably in larger quantity than it has in the past, that this is only going to assist you and assist this board in keeping up with the public, keeping up with the changes that are going on, and essentially holding everybody accountable. So,
Madam Chair, can I respond just by saying I agree? I do, and I think there's an opportunity, as has already been said, through existing vacancies or roles, we have opportunities. But what I'm really mindful of is I have been putting price tags to different things that you've been talking about, and there's a lot of creep that's going on, and it differs in a maintenance budget. It doesn't mean these things can't be done, but that's where the discretionary funds come in as well. And another evaluation of the funds available, because we did get a fortunate outcome with the bids that were returned for Phase 3 construction. And we do have the benefit of the 0%, so there may be funds available to make a great impact on some of these things. But I don't disagree, and I don't want to say it that way. I want to say I agree with the concepts that the board's talking about tonight. And that's the only way I took it, for sure.
Yeah, I think we've all tried to make it perfectly clear, right? We're looking to support you and support staff, not to say that, things aren't being done, just that there's the bandwidth for everybody, and that includes a good service to the public, which you've been doing, and hopefully we will continue to do.
Right.
But I think that's the main concern, is we don't want to drop the ball.
Yeah, just two quick things, Madam Chair. I walk away from this just realizing more and more the importance of communication and future strategic planning. And then secondly, is there any value at all of potentially meeting with the Water Wastewater Committee in the next month or two, just to get on the same page with them, like we had mentioned we were?
Yeah, actually, Noreen emailed me. She was away, so I'm connecting with her.
Great.
And actually, I think there's going to be another meeting too, so
That's great.
stay tuned.
Thank you. That's all for me.
Okay? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mark, that's very helpful, just seeing the lists, so, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Great, thanks.
Okay, town administrators report.
So as luck would have it, my report is talking about last week's Community Engagement Forum. And again, in the presence of the principal from GHD, I can't thank Jeff Gregg, Project Director, and Ivan Gomez, Project Manager, enough for their efforts. I want to say we had close to 100 people, I believe. I know we had to add chairs to the event, so it was very well attended. Excellent questions, and I think a lot of solid answers. As I gave out my contact information, Jeff reminded everybody that they had a direct conduit to Ivan. So Ivan had a list of, or a line of 7 people, and I've heard no complaints, so I believe Ivan made direct contact in the short term. So it was a great event with some great information. And the bottom line, again, and I think it follows on what the board members were just saying, we have our last progress meeting for Phase 3 before construction begins. So that meeting is tomorrow. You're going to be adding, and I recommend you add, as we did in Phase 2, a standard item before public comment where I and others give updates on where we are in Phase 3. And so, that will happen later this month, and we'll continue doing that for the next 3 years that the construction will be going on. But it was a great event last week, and I thank everybody who participated. I thank Matt for recording it, and again, we're going to have a similar concept, but a different discussion at the end of the month for Phase 3A.
Thank you for saying the
Thank for everybody.
recording, because anybody who didn't get to attend can go on and watch it.
Absolutely, and we continue to update the website through GHD. That's the wastewater information link. So, Mark, through you to your team, thanks again for a great job. And that's my report.
Thank you, Joe. Select board member report, Pete?
Not to belabor the point, but I'd really like to know if we have a time frame on a discussion regarding the search firm for the finance director position.
So we can add the search firm to the next agenda for discussion, because
Do we have any material to add? Is what I'm
I don't believe so, unless, Joe, do you have any? Did the vote, I don't recall this board taking a vote to move forward with the,
We did.
when?
We did.
When was that?
Well, you were out, but I don't know the
Yeah,
exact
so it
date.
was when I was away,
Right.
so that's why I wasn't aware.
So at this point, we haven't
been watching the
we haven't had
discussion.
any traction on this?
Well, no, I will say that I've worked through Mr. Kinshirf. We've reached out to identify firms. So what I can do tomorrow for the chair is ascertain where we are in the process and if we need any other actions from the board.
Excellent.
Yeah, because other than watching the meeting, which I actually will say that I missed a vote on that then, I didn't hear you vote on moving forward with the search firm. So you guys did do that.
That's all I had, thank you.
Don?
Got nothing.
Jeff?
Yeah, Joe, is there any update on the public comment? Or any
Policy.
input, the public comment policy from our council?
No, we're still waiting for council to get back, so I can do a reminder tomorrow.
We were waiting for that, and what was the other item we were waiting for? There was another item from John that he was supposed to give us. I'll look back at my notes. Michael?
Where's the construction meeting, Joe?
It's online on Teams. I can send you the link if you'd like.
Please do.
Yep.
And then, just on that finance director, I know that we continue to advertise. Have we had any applicants?
Sorry, I was throwing hand signals to
That's okay.
Mark to make sure you get the link.
Finance director position, I know we continue to advertise. Have we had any traction at all?
I believe Eric received 2 through Megan. I don't know that they were qualified in Eric's eyes, but I can get an update tomorrow on that.
Perfect, thank you.
We do continue to advertise, however.
Thank you. It's customary, motion to, sorry.
No. And actually, you're hurting yourself, because I was going to thank you. I was going to thank you
I don't want to do that.
for your donation to a wonderful event this past Saturday for Witches on the Water, who was able to have Dream Day Cape Cod as the recipient this year. At the beginning of the event, we had already reached 20,000, so we're still calculating. We'll probably have a number nearer to Halloween, but the stand-up paddleboard, which is what everybody wants to win, was donated by Michael and North Chatham Outfitters, so thanks again. One other thing, I think, kind of follow-up to Mary Anderson's request where we used to read the open vacancies on committees. I think that we should read our open positions, so it's just that much more getting that word out there about what we still have available, and maybe we can get local people, maybe there's by word of mouth. So, Joe, we can talk about that for the agenda topics, and then I will get that information on the search firm for next week. The other thing I know we need to get back on this cycle is our ratings for select board, town administrator, that. So I haven't forgotten about that. That's it.
Hold on, do we meet on Tuesday next week?
Yes. Oh, good call. So, yeah, next week, because of the holiday, we don't meet until Tuesday, which is October 15th, I believe.
Yeah, 15th.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Michael.
No, I was just gonna, kudos to the Witches on the Water, the event, they ordered perfect weather on Saturday. First event, I believe you've had where you could have it on site.
Second.
Second,
Yeah.
with the food trucks and auction items, so very well attended.
Yeah, it was a
Great
real
job
big
to all
success.
involved.
They
Motion
did
to
an
adjourn?
amazing-
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.